Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with my weekly recap, breakdown, and review of the latest episode of Apple TV Plus Ted Lasso Season 2. We're talking Episode 2, which was titled Lavender, and I really enjoyed this episode from beginning all the way to the end. And Ted Lasso makes a pretty big decision in this episode that may shake things up. We're going to break it all down here in this spoiler discussion, but before we dive into it, make sure you're checking me out on all my other social media accounts. If you're new to the channel, well, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing to the channel. And while you all are at it, make sure you hit that notification bell. That way you can get the alert from when I drop new content. If you all enjoyed this spoiler discussion of Ted Lasso, well, make sure to like the video, share the video. It helps out the channel a lot, but I also appreciate the support. And in those comments, let's discuss that decision, ladies and gentlemen, about, again, we're talking spoilers, Ted Lasso deciding to bring back Jamie after having that great moment with Sam this episode, after discussing it with his other Coach Beard and Higgins and Nate. What do you all think this will do to the club? Will we be winning games or will we be losing games? Will he lose control of the team? Let's discuss it all in the comments below. So just initial thoughts. This was a fantastic episode. I love this show so much because, yes, it's heartfelt. It has some good comedies, but I love that it's just so grounded in reality. I mean, there's people cursing, there's people wanking off. I mean, I just love all the characters, and there's some really big things that happen in this episode from just a story standpoint. What will this decision do to the clubhouse? Will they win games now? Will they win but lose the trust of one another because Ted brings Jamie, this nuclear bomb, this bad boy, back to the team? This is so much that's going to be going on in the rest of the season, but I'm so excited to break it all down. I really, like I said, I enjoyed the Keely and Roy moments. I enjoyed what we get with Jamie in this episode, and again, that decision will really shake things up. And we're going to break it all down, but let me know what you all thought of this second episode. But let's get into the recap. As the episode opens up with Jamie, as to his surprise, he's kicked off the reality show. He gets interviewed by This Morning, which was such a funny opening, as Jamie's just such a, we know this type of, I'm a big sports fan, and you know that kind of character, that kind of player that Jamie is. He's self-absorbed. He only cares about himself. We learned about Jamie last year, about his father and how he pushed him to kind of be the person that he is. But we know deep down that Jamie wants to be a good guy, but he has to put on this persona. So I just love that we catch back up to him, see where he's at in his mindset, and that he's not allowed to come back to the Manchester City scene, which leads him to going back to Richmond, which we'll talk about here. But I really enjoyed that opening sequence there, which brings us into, again, we talked about it last week. I love Nate, but we're seeing more of this mean streak from Nate as he continuously goes at the kid that replaced him, putting Lavender, which I love that this episode is called Lavender, because normally I've used Lavender in my house, and it's very calming, very relaxing, but you get the reverse of that because the club's very relaxing, very calm, but then we get a nuclear bomb in Jamie that comes back to the team. So again, I want to go back to Nate. What's the deal with Nate, man? Is he going to be this way the whole season? Which I mentioned last week. I like this different side of him, but I want him to kind of get back to the more humble, more, nicer character. So I wonder if we're going to really learn and dive deep into why he's acting this way. Besides, does he miss being the towel boy? Does he want to continue to be like this? Let me know your guys' thoughts on what you're thinking about Nate so far. But let's go back to my man Ted as he learns that Dr. Phil Stone has been hired to be on the team the entire season. And as I mentioned last week, he's not that happy about the decision. He doesn't have anything against Dr. Phil Stone, but I think, as I mentioned in my review last week, that he just feels like he might be slowly losing control of the team because we know Ted has a connection to each player, to each person on the staff, to the upper management, to everyone in the whole club. But I feel like someone else coming into the equation might kind of, get interfere with that connection that he has with the club. So again, we see this going on with Ted, and we're going to see Ted again. I mentioned last week, we might see Ted slowly lose control of this team after what he especially does at the end of this episode. But let's cut back to Jamie as he is learning that no one wants him to be on their team, and his kind of management team wants him to kind of focus on being a reality star, which kind of leads him going back to talking to Ted about rejoining the team. But as I mentioned, Phil Stone and being kind of the new Rebecca of this particular season, we see Ted trying to do the Ted Lasso thing that he did with Rebecca, slowly getting her trust, slowly becoming friends. He tries to offer her those amazing biscuits, which I have to try those biscuits. I know that I think they sell them in, there was like a food truck in Los Angeles that sells them. I got to try one of those. It looks so delicious. But he tries to do the same thing he does with Rebecca, but she doesn't like sugar, and she's not as open. She's not mean by any, Rebecca was mean last season, but she's not mean. She just observing things. She doesn't want to get swooped into the Ted Lasso web of kindness, of love, of appreciation, but she wants to learn more about why is this clubhouse, as she talks about later in the episode, it's a good morale, there's a good, good vibes with the team, and everyone seems to love their job, but why isn't that translating to getting wins on the field? So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Ted Lasso is going to be able to chip away to become this friendship as he did with Rebecca last season. But let's talk about some awkward moments in this episode, which I love. We get the reunion of the old couple as Jamie is stalking Keely at this point as she's on her lunch break, and he just admits that he wants advice from her because he's feeling lost. He's not welcome back on any football teams, and he wants to have this conversation with Keely, which I'm thinking, like I mentioned last week, will Jamie get him back in the mix, which we'll talk about the end shot of this episode. Will this interfere with Roy and Keely's relationship, which I think it personally will. But let's go back to more awkward moments as Roy is coming back home from ending his girls' soccer season, and he catches, which again, I love this show, he catches Keely wanking off to him being emotional during his retirement speech, and to Keely, it gets her on because it's Roy being passionate. It's because we know Roy is very emotionalist at times, but it's him being passionate at that moment. So this is the moment in the episode where Keely again says, Roy, why don't you try to get back to the game, being a commentator, being a pundit, and talking about the sport that you love, which he ultimately does. But again, it's just like catching her wanking off to him crying was just a very funny moment to me. But to nobody's surprise, we do see Jamie having a conversation with Ted, and to my surprise, Ted is like, no, I don't think it's a good idea. And Jamie's accepting of that at first, and we see the bar fans taking pictures of it, really kind of stirring up the social media thing. As we know, that happened last year when they took pictures of Ted and Keely, and the whole rumor of Ted and Keely going out. So it's always those Twitter and catching people off and celebrities and all that really kind of sparks a bit of a confrontation here as we see Sam, one of the better players on the team, being upset with Ted. And this is what I love about the show. Normally in shows, that discussion, that drama would have carried on probably 2 or 3 episodes, but I love that they had the conversation. Ted tells him, no, I didn't welcome Jamie back. And again, if this was another show, this would have been episode 6 that they probably would have had this conversation. But they had the moment there, which was an earned moment, as Sam talks about how his father really appreciates Ted looking out for him and the whole morale of the team, which I'm like, this is such a great moment. But man, it kind of feels undercut by the decision that Ted makes later in the episode. But let's talk about showtime as my man Roy is on camera. He's a little bit nervous, but Keely pushes him to go out there and be himself, which he kills it as a pundit. He's just being Roy Kent as we know him to be, very straightforward, using curse words on national TV, but he absolutely kills it, and the audience loves his Roy Kentness and his isms that he brings to this show. So he's getting back to what he loves, which is talking about the game that he loves. But time to make the decision, ladies and gentlemen, as Ted has a conversation. Should we bring Jamie back? We get 2 thumbs down and 1 thumbs up. We get, Nate and Coach Beard do not want Jamie back, but we see Higgins wants Jamie back, which leaves the decision to Ted. Do they bring him back or not? Which we'll talk about here, this decision is pretty big. But we end, and all pun intended, we end on a happy ending, if you know what I mean here, as Keely is getting pleasured by Roy and him being excited being back in the game. But we also see Ted and Dr. Philstone having a good moment, kind of getting on the same page, as again she acknowledges that the morale of the clubhouse, the managers, the players, everyone loves being here, but why aren't you guys winning? And she says, you know what, you can call me Doc now. So again, we're seeing Ted slowly kind of getting into this friendship. But again, as Dr. Philstone, or I should say Doc, why is it that isn't translating to W's? Why isn't translating to winning games? Which brings us to the last shot here as we see the team going out to the field, getting ready to practice, and Wiggins is kind of thrown off, and he looks out the window, and who's on the field? No other than Jamie. We see Sam look at Ted, and Ted's just like, hey, I had to make the final decision, bringing back Jamie to the squad. And also, I don't want to leave out, you also know who had a very surprising look on their face, and that is no other than Keely. Will Jamie be back in the mix? Will it interfere with Jamie? And will this love triangle come back again with Jamie, Keely, and Roy? And will Jamie slowly get his way back into Keely? We'll see what happens, but I want to talk about that decision, ladies and gentlemen. What a decision by Ted, because we trust Ted. We know Ted makes the right decisions for the ball club. And I personally think it was a good decision. It's the best player in the league. You know, he scores the goals. He's a great player, and I think we're going to see another version of Jamie. I don't think we're going to see the arrogant, you know, mean jerk, you know, making everyone feel bad about themselves. I think we're going to see another version of Jamie because he's lost everything. No one wanted him back, but Ted brought him back to the mix. So I think we're going to see a new Jamie. But we all know this isn't going to be a good decision right off the bat. Sam's going to be upset. I think the team's going to have maybe a couple losing streaks. So it's not Jamie that's going to help us win games. They're going to all have to come together. Dr. Fieldstone's going to have a conversation with Ted, and I think we're going to eventually get them on the winning streak and get everyone on the same page. But I expect next episode that things will not go well based on the decision. Hey, Coach Beard might have some beef, not only with Jamie, but have some beef with Ted Lasso with the decision. So what a decision, what a great episode, and I can't wait to see what comes next. But I really enjoyed this, and I want to know what you all thought about this episode, your pros, your cons, and what do you think this decision will do to the ball club. Let's just discuss it all in the comment section. If you stuck around to the end of the video, I appreciate every single one of you. If you haven't already, make sure to like, share, leave your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell. That way you don't miss any of my other content. Hope you all are having a great day. Hope you're staying safe, and we'll see you on the next video.